Hello and welcome to Scale Stuff. In this week's video, I'm going to be building and reviewing the Airfix 176 scale King Tiger starter set. I love these big old logistical nightmares, and this one's a Porsche turret, or more correctly, an early production turret with a nasty shot trap under the chin that the Germans rightly got rid of. Either way though, I'm looking forward to building Airfix's take on this iconic tank. In the box you get rubber band tracks, a simple decal sheet, black and white instructions, the parts to build the kit, and glue, paints and a brush to finish the model off, though I won't be using any of these other than maybe the brush when I've worn out a few of my other Humbrol number 2s. The paint guide for this model is located on the back of the box. A first quick look at the sprues shows nothing really of note. For the most part, the parts look pretty clean. A few bits have a bit more flash than others, but overall, at a glance, the cleanup looks like it's going to be pretty minimal. This kit was released by Airfix in 2012, and they haven't done anything with the sprue set since. Anyway, onto the build. First thing on the menu is the lower hull. When I first looked at these parts, I was expecting a bit of a weak fit, but the parts here go together pretty well. I'm still going to give this bit plenty of drying time though. Now it's on to adding the inner wheels. Off screen I've sanded off a few attachment points, but there's not much cleanup here. The parts are coming off the sprue very cleanly. On this step it will pay to keep track of which wheels go where. I've lined up all my wheels in the order that they go on to make this step easier. This is how the inner wheels are looking. Off screen I'm going to repeat this in reverse for the opposite side. Next it's time to add the outer wheels. Again, nothing really to note here, all the bits go on simply and easily. Just make sure to check the wheels are all lined up before you leave them to dry. Same as before, off screen I'm going to redo this step for the opposite side. This is how it's looking with all the wheels on. Now the instructions want me to add the tracks, but as always I'm leaving these off to make painting easier later on. Next it's time to add the upper hull to the lower hull. This bit's got the lion's share of flash to clean up. It's nothing that a sharp knife and a sanding stick won't get rid of though. With the upper hull cleaned up, the only bit to add to this part at this stage is the bow machine gun. And with that added, it's just a simple case of adding the upper and lower hull together. These parts went together really nice and I had no issues with fit. Next it's time to add some details to the front of the tank. Again, it's all nice and easy here, but their small nature means that tweezers would be helpful for this step. Next, it's time to add some details to the rear of the tank. Nothing really to note again here. The exhausts have a fair seam on them that needs to be cleaned up, but other than that, there's nothing really to watch out for. With those little bits on, that completes the lower hull assembly. Next we're moving on to the turret. Make sure you get the barrel bit in, flat side up. Other than making sure you get that part in the right way, don't get glue on this bit if you want it to move, but yeah, again, nothing really to watch out for in this step. With the barrel in, it's just a case of adding the top of the turret to the bottom of the turret. Finally, it's time to add some details to the turret. The front plate here had a bit of a tight fit, but it goes on okay in the end. I found it fitted on easier with the barrel aimed upwards. Once that bit's on though, the bits that follow are small but easy. The rear panel was the only bit which gave me any fuss. The fit here was a little bit too small and the back panel wouldn't fit in, so yeah, I enlarged the hole with a scalpel. From here on out though, it's just a steady plod to the finish line. This is how the tank's looking, with the turret complete and added to the lower hull. Now it's on to the painting. First thing I'm doing is giving the model a quick coat of Humbrol Desert Tan spray paint. As always, I'm spraying this up, off screen, outside, to avoid fumigating myself. With the base coat down, it's on to painting the green on the tank. I'm going to do my best to copy the camo plan on the back of the box for this kit. For the green, I'm using Tamiya XF62 Olive Drab. As I was painting this, it turns out the camo plan on the box isn't the greatest, as a few of the bits don't match up. It's nothing to lose sleep over, but yeah. With that done, it's now on to painting the browns. For this, I'm using Tamiya XF75 Deck Brown. I'm taking my time with this bit, as the brown camo is a fair bit thinner than the green. Next, it's time for the model's first wash. Breaking routine on this kit, I'm giving the model a light wash of Army Painter Elf Green. I'm going to try and blend the camo before shading on this one. Not sure if it will make any difference in the long run, but you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Wash done, it's time to paint the little details on this tank. First, I'm painting all of the tools and cables with matte black. Some of these bits are so fine on this kit that they're really hard to pick out. I'm going to do most of this off camera as I need to steady my hands. Black on, now it's time to paint the tool handles, winch blocks and cleaning rods in AK World War I British khaki base. These parts are really hard to get a decent finish on. These bits could have done with being a little bit more pronounced. With the details dry, I'm giving the model a wash of watered down black. This model really needed the black wash to bring out the details and tie all the little bits together by getting into the bits I can't get to with a brush. The panel lines on this model really like to hold the paint, but as the details are quite fine, I'm not watering the black down as much as I would do normally to avoid it running away from where I want it. This is how the model's looking with the black wash dry. Now I'm going to add the decals to the kit. The decals in this model are short and simple. Couple of issues here though, and that's the rear turret decal's not going to go on well with out decal fix, as yeah, the back of the turret's really contoured, and the iron cross won't fit onto the hull under the tools, as you can't take the tools off, they're molded in. You're going to need to cut the decal if you want to put it onto the sides, but what I'm going to do here is just add the little iron cross to the turret rather than the hull, just to make things easier for myself. This is how the tank's looking with its decals on. Next, it's on to adding the dust coat. For this, I'm dry brushing my tried and tested Army Painter skeleton bone. This model really needed this dust coat, as the details are quite fine, but a light dry brush is really highlighting them and bringing them to the forefront. Now it's on to painting the tracks. Off screen, I've given the tracks a base coat of matte black. Firstly, I'm hitting the tracks with a dry brush of Army Painter Gunmetal. With the dry brush on, I wash the tracks in Vallejo BS Dark Earth to give them a muddied effect. Now the tracks are dry, I'm adding them to the tank. For this, I'm doing my standard glue and tuck. A word of warning on these tracks, I've seen a few people mention online that the tracks in this kit are a little tight, so watch out for that if you're making this model at home. The tracks can be stretched by soaking them in hot water for a bit if you want them on whole, or you can simply do what I'm doing here. Finally, with the tracks on, I give the tank its mud coat with a light dab and dry brush of BS Dark Earth. And I think with that on, I'm going to call this model done. This is the finished model. I'm always happy to build a King Tiger, and though it's not perfect, I like the way that this one's turned out. In conclusion, the Airfix 176 scale King Tiger starter set is a nice model, though I do question its suitability as a starter set, as some of the fine details on this kit were really quite tricky to paint. Build wise though, this kit goes together easily, almost mindlessly, but it does have some very small bits that tweezers would help with during the assembly. I was impressed with how fine the parts were attached to the sprue in this kit, as the bits virtually fell out of them. This kit cost me £7 second hand, but retails for around the £14 mark brand new. I think that this is a fair price for this model, as it's been an enjoyable build, and yeah, it's certainly lasted me longer than a couple of pints would. Anyway, that's my build and review of the Airfix 176 scale King Tiger. As always, thank you for watching. I hope you found the video helpful if you're making or thinking of getting one of these kits yourself. Until next time though, look after yourselves and have a good one. Goodbye.